What did another person do that accidentally turned you on? I was working in a deli, promoted to shift leader. I made sure everything was managed for the closing shift. This plain-looking girl named Jenny was one of my subordinates. She wasn't unattractive to me, but she was a coworker dressed in uniform, apron, hairnet. So obviously not hot. I asked her to do a few tasks. She replied, "Yes, master." Boner time. I make a point to look away ASAP if a girl is putting her hair up into a ponytail. If she is even remotely attractive, it immediately sends my brain to I'm about to get head. Senior year I had a trig teacher who was 24 and gorgeous. We got on quite well as student and teacher. One day, I was in a particularly shitty mood and tromping down the hallway. Someone called my name in a rather childish fashion, so I shot a glance that conveyed my mood. Then I heard my name in her teacher voice. I whipped around to face her and she growled at me while making a claw gesture with her hand, before telling me to smile. That growl. Oh man. I'll be in my bunk. I used to work at a grocery store. One day a girl around the same age as me said thank you, sir, after I helped her find something. I learned some stuff about myself that day. My girlfriend was giving me a blowjob when she accidentally burped. I've never had an interest in burping or been remotely turned on by it, but for some reason that shit drove me wild. We're pretty open about sexual stuff, so I told her. She laughed and then started doing it on purpose. So now I have an itch burp blowjob fetish. That's cool. I was having a tattoo on my back. The tattooist, who was probably the least attractive bloke I've ever met in my life, and I've met some fucking corkers, put a blob of Vaseline on my back to dip into to use during tattooing. Every single time he got more Vaseline on his finger, it was like being touched on the clit. A rush of desire went through me. I could have banged him rigid there and then. Luckily I just bit my lip and let him carry on inking. I had an orgasm during my back tattoo session because of the guy's voice, combined back touching, and vibration from the ink. I let go a whimper when it actually happened and he noticed my entire body clench. He kept his hand on my back, but stopped tattooing. I sheepishly turned around after my legs stopped shaking and said I needed a break. He had the biggest grin of disbelief and asked if I needed water. You need to make this his Yelp review. A few years back, I dated a pretty hot girl. She was a smoker and used mints for her breath. She would whisper, or scream, but usually just whisper, "Oh fuck," during sex. Fast forward a few years after that. One of my coworker is a 45-year-old dude. He smokes and uses mints. One day I want to show him something on my screen, so he leans in relatively close to my face and whispers, "Oh fuck." Very confusing moment. I had a male coworker that started trying to plait my hair, long at the time, when I was on the phone. I was very distracted. Fuck, it was strangely hot. Coworker and I were really good work buddies based in Houston. We were both late 20s at the time. We were sent to another branch for a strategy meeting before they flew us and members of the San Francisco team to England. We flew from Houston to San Francisco, the next day a flight from San Fran to New England, Boston, then on to London. Basically a ton of sitting and being uncomfortable for hours. So she had some sort of arthritis and was having a flare-up and was extremely uncomfortable. She said her legs and feet were driving her crazy on the first flight. Much later on the flight to England, she was on the verge of crying. I said, "What if I rub your legs?" She immediately said please. Spent the next few hours watching a movie and rubbing her legs and feet. She was propped up against the window and had her legs in my lap. Raging boner for hours. The flight back she wore shorts and brought lotion out, asked me to go at it again. Raging boner. I was in middle school riding home on the bus. 4 of us in that bus were playing a truth or dare game from an iPod. One girl was dared to blow into my ear. We all thought it was weird and didn't understand why that was such a big deal. And then she blew in my ear and I immediately understood. Also, coincidentally, got a crush on that very girl shortly after. This happens all the time when people I know decide to touch my neck collarbone area for whatever reason. It's extremely sensitive and I have to explain to people every goddamn time to please not touch me there unless you intend to fuck me. Me, male, and one of my female friends were at a party and we started to jokingly shit talk each other as friends do. I jokingly respond, "How dare you?" and pretend to give an indignant slap that, in reality, was little more than a pat on her cheek. She retorts, "No, how dare you?" and gives one back. Now we're doing fake slaps back and forth, but we start getting harder with the slaps and it quickly turns into a game of chicken. I was expecting I'd have to stop from cheek pain. The actual reason I had to stop was because when the game escalated and she gave me the first full force slap across the face, I got really turned on. Like, as soon as she struck me, instant hard on. It was a learning moment for Fibonacci fanboy that night. A friend of mine invited me and another friend out for milkshakes, and at one point she got some of hers on her fingertip, so she licked it off. I felt very flustered about this, so I turned to my other friend who was also licking milkshake off her fingertips. Anyway, it turns out I'm a lesbian. Hold on to me and cry, kinda feel bad about that one. Story time of my most shameful blowjob. I was kind of seeing this girl. We were into each other but she was moving away. The morning she was moving she came round to mine and we went for a drive somewhere. We were just talking in the car and she ended up crying. I hugged her and stroked her hair and we ended up in a position where she was curled up in a ball with her head resting on my stomach face down towards my dick. Her crying and making me feel good because she was going to miss me so much turned me on and I started to get hard. I was wearing jogging shorts and she must have noticed a bulge appear and she just whipped it out and started sucking my dick. I could feel her tears dripping off her face and onto my balls and thighs and I'm ashamed to say it turned me on. I ended up coming in her mouth and the sound of her swallowing my cum, sniffing back tears and the feel of her tears still falling on me was amazing. She texted me later and said thanks for not stopping her, she wanted to lighten the mood. My ex-girlfriend's perfume still drives me wild. We've been broken up for 3 years, but a teaching assistant at my school was wearing the same perfume while helping me with a term paper. Insert raging boner here, her denying me when I followed her on Instagram. During a slow day at work, a female coworker came up and started giving me a massage for no apparent reason and without warning. She was rubbing my shoulders and although I was honestly a bit confused and somewhat annoyed that she would just randomly touch me without my permission, we weren't really friendly like that, it felt really good so I didn't protest. As she was telling me a story I decided to look up from my phone. The combination of her massage skills, cute voice, and eye contact made me insta-hard. I got super embarrassed and worked vigilantly to get rid of it before she noticed. I think I succeeded, but I'll never know for sure. Chief, I think you missed a signal somewhere. Didn't expect so many people to read this, so I just want to explain a few things. It's possible the girl was into me and I missed obvious signals, but she is super flirty by nature and she has a boyfriend, so I didn't want to get involved in that drama. I was also madly in love with a separate coworker at the time, which caused me to have ridiculously strong tunnel vision. Of course that didn't work out, but that's a different story for a different time. One time my husband backed our truck into a really small space downtown in one quick sweep. I don't know if it was his impressive precise parking skills or the notion of fitting something so big into such a tight space so smoothly that turned me on,